Another type that is important to know is a Boolean, which takes two values, either true or false, and that is the only thing it can be. So for example, if I were to say a Boolean happy equals true, then that means I'm happy. Or if I were to say sad equals false, then sad, the variable sad, is false. Booleans are important for when we use control flow operators such as if or while loops and all of these things. They can be the conditionals by which we determine what code to run or what decisions to make. Boolean values are referred to as logical values, and again, they can only provide two constant values, true and false. The last data type that we're going to cover in this video is called a tuple. And tuples group multiple values into a single compound value. So they can sort of be thought of as objects in JavaScript, sorta. So this is the way they work in Swift. If I write a variable, so let http 404 error, that's the name of my variable, and it's equal, or I'm assigning two values, one an integer and two a string. So the first one will hold 404, that's the error code, and then the second one will hold not found, and that's just a string. So the type of http 404 error is integer and string, and then the values are 404 and not found. So the tuple groups together an integer and a string in this example to give us the HTTP status code, right, in two separate values. And we can access these as if they were objects in JavaScript. You know, that's the best example I can give. So for example, if I make another variable, you know, I'm going to decompose this variable, for example. So I'm going to create two variables, let status code comma status message equal to http 404 error. Then if I print the variable that says status code, that'll only hold the first part of the tuple, which is 404. And if I make another variable called status message and I set it equal to the second part, or implicitly to the second part of the http 404 error, it'll hold not found as its value. So if we want to access individual elements in a tuple, we can use it. We can do that by using index numbers starting at 0. So again, just like a JavaScript object, if I say http 404 error.0, it'll give me the 404. And if I say http 404 error.1, it'll give me the second value in the tuple. And again, as if it was a JavaScript object, we can actually name the individual elements in a tuple when the tuple is defined. So let http 200 status equal status code, let it equal to 200, and description equal to OK. Tuples are particularly useful as return values of functions. So a function that tries to retrieve a web page might return the int string tuple type to describe the success or failure of the page retrieval, right? It'll just return that value. For example, if it returns 200, it means it's okay. If it returns 404, it's not found. If it returns a 500 HTTP error, then there was obviously a problem with the server itself. So by returning a tuple with two distinct values and each one of them of a different type, the function provides more useful information about its outcome than it could if only it returned one single value. So it's definitely way more useful. And they're useful for temporary groups of related values. So obviously they wouldn't be suited to the creation of complex data structures, because if we want to work with data structures, it would probably be better to model it as a class or a structure rather than a tuple.